Hello and welcome. My name is Space Muffin, and we are back with the Void Playground, guys. Today is a special episode, episode number 10, I believe. Is that correct?
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah, wow. And, honestly, guys, back by popular request, we do have Jumpman here. His knowledge is very vast. So, yeah, we got Jumpman on, and then, of course, we have our very, very, very good friend, JD. JD, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are everybody else? How's everybody else doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Jumpman, how are you, man?
oh, good.
So today is a very special podcast. We did our Star Wars episode, which I wish Jumpman were here for, but this is going to be the Star Trek episode. And I believe, so Jumpman, you said you've seen every Star Trek piece of media. Is that correct?
As far as TV shows and films go, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. So let's get started, guys. The original trilogy.
What do you mean by original trilogy? There's not really an original trilogy.
The original series. The original series.
There's the original 6 movies.
So yeah, let's actually talk about that for a second. So the original series, that was what, from 1965 to what, 1960?
1966 to 1969.
Oh, really? But didn't they do some pilots like early?
They did a pilot that was originally featuring Captain Pike, and then then that was the original pilot, and the studio turned it down initially, and then they decided to ask Roddenberry to try again, and this time getting William Shatner this time around.
Oh wow!
And that's the origin of where Christopher Pike came from, and then William Shatner Kirk.
Wow, that is really interesting. Yeah. So a lot of people that are watching the podcast probably they don't go back that far. I know obviously we don't go back that far. But can you give us a little bit of an overview on what the original series is about, what the premise is, just for the audience purposes?
It was pretty straightforward then. It was just Kirk and the crew exploring worlds. Basically, it was a very episodic series.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And then with the original series, when did you get first introduced to that? I'm just curious.
Actually, it was actually through my dad. My dad is a huge Trekkie.
Oh, is he really?
My dad basically raised my sister and I on Star Trek.
Wow, that is incredible. JD, you might have a little bit different of an experience. What was your kind of first experience with Star Trek?
I remember watching Star Trek. Well, whatever my grandfather put on the TV, that's what I watched as a kid. So one time it was just Star Trek, and I just watched it. And I was like, okay, that's a really good show, But I'm more like the controversy. I know the controversy is like between Star Wars and Star Trek. I'm more of a Star Wars fan than a Star Trek fan.
Yeah, I think like that, like the age of like Star Trek fans and Star Wars fans, I could be wrong, hating each other. I think there's a lot of overlap today. You know what I mean? Like I think like nerd culture has kind of like melted. Yeah, I don't know, Jumpman, what do you think about that? Do you think like Star Trek and Star Wars fans can get along, or what do you think?
The thing is, I like Star Wars and I like Star Trek, but I'm actually more of a Star Trek fan than a Star Wars fan, I would say. But yeah. I've seen a lot of Star Wars.
I think that like they can coexist,
Yeah.
For me personally, I had seen little tidbits of the original series and Next Generation, but I never got into it. I'd watched obviously the J.J. Abrams films and things like that. So we'll kind of get back into that. But going back to the original series, as Jumpman mentioned, it's very straightforward. There's 79 episodes, I believe, right, Jumpman?
I think so. It's 70. Yeah, I think so. I think it's like 77, 79. I count. I don't remember the episode counts for. It's somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah, and then kind of after that, we had there was an animated series that a lot of people don't know about, right?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
the animated series ran for 2 seasons. It's good. It has some of the original cast back voicing their characters in the animated series. There is a debate as to whether the animated series is canon or not. I kind of like to think it's canon, especially with today's time in Star Trek. We're getting more animated Star Trek shows than that right now.
right.
Mhm.
Wow.
So
And then after that, they started to really. So after the animated series, what was kind of the next thing? Was that there was the first movie, right? I believe.
yeah, yeah. The first, the yeah. There's it's a funny story with the first movie because the script for the first movie was intended to be the first episode of a revival series that was going to be called Star Trek Phase Two.
Oh, interesting.
But because of the success of Star Wars and ET back in 1977, the sci-fi genre got revitalized. Paramount wanted to get in on that and decided to turn the what was supposed to be the first episode of this Phase Two series into a movie. So that's where the first movie came from.
Oh wow, wow, that
Yeah.
is really
So
interesting.
Okay.
yeah, yeah, which is why when you watch the first movie, it drags really bad because the script was originally intended to be 45 minutes long for an episode, but they
Wow.
somehow managed to stretch it into a 2-hour film.
So, let me ask you this about the first film. Did you enjoy the first film? What was your kind of memories of the first Star Trek film? Sorry.
The first Star Trek film, it is not really good. If I were to try to get someone into Star Trek, I wouldn't haven't watched the first movie because it's just bad.
So yeah, that
But
was Star Trek: The Motion Picture, and then after that was Wrath of Khan, I believe.
yes, and
Correct.
that's a really good movie. That's considered one of the best, if not the best, Star Trek film of all time.
Okay, so there is a contrast. The first film was really bad. Second one was really really good. They nailed it the second time. Would you agree with that?
Yes,
So Wrath of Khan, this kind of came out during what 1982, right?
I think so.
So this was in that like you're saying that revival era, in between Empire Strikes Back, in between Return of the Jedi. I think E.T. also came out during this time, during the early '80s,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, I think ET came out in the late '70s
Oh,
because,
did
like
it
I
really?
said, it was because it was ET and Star Wars that kind of revitalized the sci-fi genre in the late '70s.
Well, you also had like
Yeah,
Close Encounters of the Third Kind
yeah.
and
There's that
Alien.
too.
Yeah.
Yes.
E.T. was released in June 11, 1982.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
82.
Wow.
Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm thinking of Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Maybe that came out in the.
Yeah.
I
No. Yeah. Close
that's
Encounters came out in '77.
okay. Okay, that's the movie. Okay, it was Star
Yes.
Wars in that movie.
Yeah. And
So I
then
I misspoke.
Alien came out in '79.
Right.
And
But
so,
yes, but yeah, the first movie was made because of the revitalization of the sci-fi genre at that time.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I'd seen a lot of like I mean, okay, so Wrath of Khan, I mean, it was also very financially successful, I believe. And it kind of I don't know, like what would you say the major differences between the at least looking at the first two Star Trek movies, what would you say the major differences obviously other than it like, being a series versus a movie, what would you say like the major like thematically were there any differences, I guess is my question.
Oh, you're talking the difference between the show and the films
Correct.
or the television.
Yeah, the first two
Um,
films at least, yeah.
well, there's a there's a there's an extreme contrast between the first and the second films alone, right there, because, like I said, the first film had such a really slow pacing, and and I would say the second film was they brought back Khan, and the second film had much better pacing, and it was more of like a cat and mouse type of warfare between the Enterprise crew and Khan.
So let me ask you a question,
So,
Jumpman. Um, you're trying to get someone into the what I would refer to as like the original Star Trek, basically everything before Next Generation. Where do we start? Do we start with Wrath of Khan? Do we start with the series? Like, where would you direct people to start?
well, as far as Star Trek in general, I usually nowadays I would try to get people into Star Trek by watching the Next Generation first, because
interesting.
that
Interesting.
that show has aged better.
Hmm.
Not to say the original series is bad; it's really good. But for someone new that's wanting to get into Star Trek for the first time, it's a lot easier to start with Next Generation.
So you would
And
say skip the whole original series and movies and just go straight to next gen.
Yeah, yeah. As far as like trying to get someone to Star Trek,
Wow.
and then because you don't really need to see the original series to watch Next Generation, because it's set 100 years after the original series and has an entirely different crew.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So for those of you wanting to get into Star Trek, Jumpman recommends watching Next Generation. Okay, so let me ask you this, Jumpman. Okay, kind of going down. We're kind of bouncing around, but we're going down the timeline. How did you feel about the Search for Spock?
The Search for Spock is good. It's not as good as Wrath of Khan or Voyage Home, but Search for Spock was good.
So would you say that it's the third best movie then in the quadrilogy?
No, I wouldn't say it's the third best movie.
No, I'm saying in the quadrilogy of are there 4 or 5?
There's 6 movies in the original series that are based on the original series crew, and then there's 4 movies based on the Next Generation crew.
Okay. So hold on. Okay, so there's the Search for Spock. After the Search for Spock is the Voyage Home. What are the next 2? What are the 2 that come after that?
That'd be the 5th one being the Final Frontier.
Oh, that's right.
That one isn't really good either.
Forgot about that. I forgot about the Final Frontier. And then what's the 6th one? I forgot.
This one is the Undiscovered Country.
I never even heard of that one.
The 6th one's good.
So
I mean, it's got Michael Dorn playing Worf's grandfather in the Undiscovered Country.
The Undiscovered Country. Wow, that's crazy. So there's 6 movies. Okay, so just for the sake of this, what would you rank? How would you rank the 6 original movies?
Oh my god, the top 2 would definitely be Wrath of Khan and The Voyage Home. I'm not sure which one. I'm not sure what I'd put as number 1 personally.
Okay, so we know that they're interchangeable. Voyage Home, Wrath of Khan, they're kind of interchangeable.
Yeah, that's a pretty hot debate among Star Trek fans as to which movie is better, one or the other.
So slots 1 and 2 are dedicated to those 2 movies. What would you say 3 would be?
Probably of the original 6 films, probably Undiscovered Country.
Oh, interesting. Okay. And then what would you say after that?
Search for Spock. And then the bottom 2 would be like Final Frontier and the first film. I'm not really sure where I'd put in the bottom, because those 2 are, but I'd probably put, actually no. I think I'd put the motion picture as number 5, and then Final Frontier as the worst one. But that's kind of only because the first one is the first one.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So
Wow. So moving into the kind of the next era, right? The next big era was the Next Generation. That went from next gen went from the
mid 80s to the early 90s, like
mid 80s to early,
probably like 86 to 92.
Wow.
Because I think because Star Trek Generations, the first film based on the Next Generation series, was released within a year after that series ended.
Yeah, so just for us fans, I mean, obviously there's far more episodes in Next Gen, right? There's 100 more episodes, 101 more episodes actually, 180 or 178, I believe.
Yeah, there's a lot of episodes. I don't remember the episode counts for the shows, but yeah, it's something like that.
So, what would you say the primary? Obviously, I think there's a visual difference between the Next Gen and the original series. What would you? I don't know. How would you kind of what's your analysis on that?
The original series has a lot of 60s cheese. You just can't help but smile at. But there's an appreciation for it though too. But it's good. It's good it is really good series. It's just for someone nowadays, it would take a little bit to get used to. If I were to have someone start watching the original series, I'd probably like handpick some of like the best episodes of the show. I wouldn't go in order.
Yeah. So, yeah, because Next Gen, I was a kid. I mean, we were all kids when Next Gen came out. Actually, no, I was actually wasn't even born when when it
No,
premiered. But
I was. Yeah.
yeah. So let me ask you this, okay? In the Next Generation, you obviously got Patrick Stewart. What's his name? Jonathan.
Jonathan Frakes.
Yeah, Jonathan Frakes. Yeah, so you got the Reading Rainbow dude. I forgot what his name was.
LeVar Burton.
Yeah, you have that guy. You have the whole cast. And obviously, I think the sequel series. We're gonna kind of skip around here, guys, a little bit. Picard.
Yeah.
Now, you and I have obviously talked about Picard. Would you recommend people watch the Next Generation and then Picard, or is it like, hey, watch the Next Generation, then maybe watch the original trilogies? Where do we go from the Next Generation once we're done watching that? Because that's the first thing you want us to watch. That's the first thing you recommend. Correct?
Yeah. Before watching Star Trek Picard, you definitely should watch the Next Generation series and the 4 films based on the Next Generation series.
Yeah, there was Nemesis, and I remember what other ones were there?
Nemesis is the last one of the 4.
Oh,
yeah. The first one of the 4 is Generations.
Oh, right.
And
Then First Contact. That's right.
First Contact, and then Insurrection, and then Nemesis.
Right. Now, how would you rank the Next Generation movies?
The First Contact is the best one of those 4. Then I'd say Generations would be second, Insurrection third, Nemesis fourth.
Oh, interesting.
But Nemesis is pretty important to watch for Star Trek Picard.
Yeah, I believe that's one of what's his name? Don't tell me. Nobody say anything.
Yeah, I don't know if we're okay to spoil stuff on this podcast.
Tom Hardy. No, we're not going to spoil anything. I mean, it's
okay.
But I was like one of Tom Hardy's like early movies. I think it was like one of his first movies.
Yeah. Tom Hardy played the clone of Picard.
Yeah, that is so interesting.
Yep.
And then
that happened.
Yeah, dude. Like Next Generation, like on a cultural level, I think like really like I don't know. It just did a lot, like on a cultural, like the nerd culture, So okay, so we watched Next Generation. We've watched Picard, which is the new series. What would you say that we watch after Picard?
Well, Picard season 3 is currently running right now. So episode 6 just came out last week. So episode 7 is supposed to come out tomorrow. So they're still releasing season 3 right now.
So one of the biggest contrasts that people have talked to me about with Star Trek and Star Wars is the Star Trek has a more philosophical element, and then Star Wars has a more visual element. What are your thoughts on that, Jumpman?
I would agree.
Okay. I mean, obviously, there's philosophy in Star Wars, but it's a little bit. Like it's a little bit more like surface level, if that makes any sense. Where Star Trek, I've heard it goes like a little bit deeper.
Yeah, but the Star Trek also has its action. Definitely more so in the films, I would say. Like if you were to watch Wrath of Khan or The Undiscovered Country, First Contact definitely has a lot of action.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. For me, it's like, okay, so when watching, like, obviously you want to have a good story. And I think like visually speaking, I think obviously, like Star Wars was inspired by like Flash Gordon and even Star Trek, obviously, and things like that. And I find it interesting, like if you look at like the sci-fi in the 60s, right? There really wasn't much, right? I mean, there really wasn't much like, I mean, you had stuff like, in the 30s, like The Rocketeer and things like that, but there really wasn't anything like Star Trek when it came out.
Right.
And then, kind of like there was kind of a slowdown with sci-fi, really. Like it kind of slowed down. And then obviously it kind of came back with Star Wars. And then it kind of, I don't know, like in the 80s, there was a lot of good sci-fi, but we didn't quite. I don't know. Sci-fi kind of just like you had action, you had all the action stuff, you did have some sci-fi stuff, you had aliens, things like that in the 80s. And then in the 90s, you know, we kind of took a break. Like really in the 90s, that was kind of a break from fantasy, right? It was kind of a break from cheese horror, right? And you know, sci-fi was kind of like here with, you know, you had things like the Trekkies and things like that. What was the next series or that you would recommend after Picard in this recommendation order? Would you recommend watching the original series, or what would you recommend watching?
Oh, well, I mean, after original series Next Generation, I would recommend watching Deep Space Nine and Voyager and Enterprise.
In that order.
Yes. Deep Space Nine, Voyager, Enterprise,
just for the people watching the show. So this is what I'm hearing, Jumpman. So watch Next Generation first, correct?
Yeah.
Then Picard.
Well, the thing is they do have a character in Picard that is from the Voyager series, so you basically need to watch Voyager. Honestly, you should really, especially for Picard season 3 that's currently running, you definitely need to watch Deep Space Nine and Voyager.
Okay, so Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager. Where does the original series fit in? Where do you put that? Where do we watch that for the fans watching at home?
I mean, once you start watching Next Generation, you're able to get into it. And this is also kind of hard because, like the original series, I probably wouldn't have. If I were to get someone in Next Generation, I would probably start off with certain episodes that are like really good from the Next Generation, like Measure of a Man, or Measure of a Man's a really good episode of Next Generation.
So let's talk to JD real quick, okay?
What's that?
We're going to take a little detour before we get to Deep Space Nine and Voyager, okay?
I'm just doing research over here.
No, it's okay. So we have in the 2000s, okay? So I believe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the most popular genre of film was fantasy. I could be wrong though. You had
in the 2000s. Yeah. In the 2000s, Harry Potter was the thing. That was the thing before the MCU.
Right. So you had Harry Potter, but you also had Lord of the Rings, right?
Yeah.
It was that time period where, you know, people were just pumping out fantasy movies and things like that. So, but there was one movie that came out during the late 2000s that I think got a lot of people back into Star Trek, and that was Star Trek, the J.J. Abrams Chris Pine movie.
Chris Pine.
Yeah.
Now here's the thing, Jumpman.
Yes.
That was the very first Star Trek movie that I had seen front to back.
Same.
What are your thoughts though on the Pine movies?
Those movies are fine. They don't quite really feel like Star Trek. Star Trek Beyond, the third one of those three, is probably my favorite.
Oh, interesting.
Because that one felt closest to what Star Trek should be.
Right. I liked the pacing of the first movie. I liked the fact that we get to kind of see Kirk, you know, and just kind of him kind of rise through the ranks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the first one was all right. The first one was fine.
So
I just didn't really care for Into Darkness.
Okay, yes, that's what I wanted to get to. So Into Darkness is okay. This is what I've heard. Okay, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. But Into Darkness is to Star Trek like The Last Jedi is to Star Wars. Would you agree with that?
Not really. If I were to say something of Star Trek that is The Last Jedi for Star Wars, I would probably say Star Trek Discovery or the first 2 seasons of Star Trek Picard is that.
So the thing about so this is what I'll say it like this. A lot of Star Wars fans didn't like The Last Jedi, but a lot of non-Star Wars fans liked The Last Jedi. Am I making any sense?
It makes sense. But those people that have not watched Star Wars should be watching actual Star Wars.
Yes. So with Star Trek Into Darkness, I watched that in theaters. There's a lot of people who that aren't really big Star Trek fans that really liked the movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I could see that.
It actually has a pretty positive rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I think it did pretty good. Sorry, what was that? JD?
84% Rotten Tomato.
Yeah, and I just thought the movie did pretty good. I personally am a big fan of Benedict Cumberbatch.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Jumpman, what's your opinion on Benedict Cumberbatch as Khan? What was your kind of opinion on that?
No, that
Who would
no,
you
that
cast?
he has no business being Khan.
Okay,
Like,
so
Cumberbatch is a good actor, but he should not have been Khan.
who should have played Khan in the new series?
I don't know. I honestly do not know. They basically did the riff on Wrath of Khan film. Like some of the
Interesting.
scenes they kind of twisted around.
Yeah, interesting. That's interesting to hear from a Star Trek fan. And then you liked Beyond a little bit more, you were saying.
Yeah, Beyond is my favorite of the three, I would say, with the first one being second and Into Darkness being last.
See, that's interesting. That's very interesting. A
Okay.
lot of people, they like Into Darkness. You know what I mean? But no, it's good to hear from an actual Star Trek fan. That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's coming as a Star Trek fan, yeah.
Yeah, so going back, let's go back to Deep Space Nine. Okay, so Deep Space Nine, to be honest, I never really. What's the premise of Deep Space Nine?
Deep Space Nine definitely has a slightly more serialized story. Like, unlike original and Next Generation, I couldn't if I were to have someone start watching Deep Space Nine, they have to start from the beginning.
Oh, so there's more story arcs, is what you're saying?
Yes, there is more story arcs essentially. Yeah, but basically, Cisco is on the space station, Deep Space Nine, that orbits Bajor. That was just recently freed from Cardassian rule. Basically, the pilot, you have to see the pilot. It basically sets up the premise of the whole series.
Gotcha. Yeah,
So,
I've heard that. And this is why I wish I had Elliptic Planet here, because a lot of people say that Lost Galaxy, Power Rangers Lost Galaxy, was heavily inspired by Deep Space Nine, but or just sci-fi in general. I just find that just to be an interesting little tidbit. I've never seen Deep Space Nine. I have seen Lost Galaxy, but that's interesting. Are there any movies based off of Deep Space Nine?
no.
Oh, interesting.
No, they've only made movies based on the original and Next Generation. And then there's those films.
So Voyager and Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise don't have any movies, basically.
No, sadly.
So, what was your opinion on Voyager? What was your thoughts on that? Where does it rank?
Voyager, I really like. That one I probably personally like more than Deep Space Nine.
Oh, really? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, personally. But Voyager is more about Captain Janeway, Captain USS Voyager that gets stranded 75,000 light years from Earth, and the whole series is basically about them trying to get back home.
Wow, that's very interesting. And then there's Enterprise. What was your thoughts on Enterprise?
The Enterprise series is good. It's underrated. It should have went on longer because season 3 and season 4 was when it got really good. Then they canceled it after season 4.
So let me ask you this. Every series has kind of like a black sheep series. For American Horror Story, they have one for everyone has this kind of hey, this is the one that maybe isn't that great, right? It sounds to me though like all of the Star Trek series are pretty good, or at least worth watching.
Yeah, definitely.
If you had to pick one is hey, this one's maybe not the best, what would you say that one would be?
Wait, as to current date, which one's not the best?
Yes, from original series to Enterprise, basically.
From those original 5 shows.
Yes, we're not talking about Discovery or Picard yet, or anything like that.
Okay, we're not including those. So if we're not including the current Trek that we have, the worst one of those 5 probably would be the Enterprise series, honestly. But it's still good.
So adding in, okay, because Discovery and Picard are still going on. That's why I didn't want to add them in.
Yeah. Well, Discovery is ending at season 5. That's supposed to come out early next year.
So how do you feel
That was
about
recently
Discovery?
announced.
That originally started on CBS, and now it's on Paramount, I believe.
Well, CBS got turned into Paramount Plus because Paramount bought out whatever. And anyway, but uh it's here. Discovery is, to me, Discovery visually it looks amazing, but it's just not good.
Is it just the writing, the characters, the premise, or what?
It's mainly the writing. It's mostly has to do with the writing.
Oh, interesting. Very interesting.
Sort of some, yeah, a little bit with the acting too. The acting is kind of
Wow.
a problem. I have a problem with too, with some of them.
Okay, is it too wooden? Is it too what's your problem with the acting?
It's like it's weird because like the first 2 seasons, like Captain Michael Burnham, she's a black female, but she has a very stoic personality. Like there's not really any emotion coming out of her, but I guess it's because she's been kind of raised on Vulcan. But it kind it's kind of breaking canon a bit because she's also apparently like the foster sister of Spock because Sarek raised her.
Oh wow, wow.
Yeah,
Interesting.
it's anyway. But then like later on in the series, like right now, it's like now there's just a lot of crying.
Ah, so there's a lot of emotional.
Yeah, and Star Trek is not like that. It's way too emotional.
So yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, so I mean, you know, because Discovery, that's probably what a lot of kids today or people today would probably know. And obviously the Pine movies. But kind of moving forward into Picard and Strange New Worlds. What is your thoughts? We talked a lot about Picard. What's your thoughts on Strange New Worlds?
Strange New Worlds is amazing.
Oh wow!
Like that was
okay.
that was Paramount Plus's first time they finally got Star Trek right, in my opinion.
Interesting. Is that
Yeah.
Is that the animated one, or which one is that?
No. Strange New Worlds is a live action series. It's kind of a spin-off to Discovery because they reintroduced some of these characters in the second season of Discovery with Christopher Pike and Spock. Strange New Worlds is basically set on the Enterprise 10 years before the original series, before Kirk became captain of the
that's
Enterprise.
interesting. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Actually.
So yeah, Strange New Worlds is actually based on the original pilot to the original series that we were discussing earlier.
Wow, that is interesting.
Because I remember I told you that the original pilot that was originally released had Captain Pike and Spock and a different cast, basically.
Oh, I'm thinking of Prodigy. Prodigy is the animated one, right?
Yes, Prodigy is the animated one. That is a Star Trek show I would recommend kids watching. That's I've actually been watching it. It's actually fairly good for what it is.
So going back to Strange New Worlds, okay, so on a visual level, on a storytelling level, you're a big fan of it.
Yeah, of Star Trek in general, yeah.
No, of Strange New Worlds specifically.
Oh, Strange New Worlds, that's good. Yeah, that one's good.
Who plays Pike?
Anson Mount.
Oh, okay, Anson Mount. Okay, wow.
Yeah, he actually plays Black Bolt in the Inhumans ABC series.
That's right.
And then he reprised that role of Black Bolt in Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness.
Oh, so we have a lot of trivia here. Yeah,
yes.
No, he's one of those actors. I know he's been in everything, right? He's been on. See, now he's in Star Trek. He's been in obviously Marvel with the Black Bolt thing. I think he voiced Bruce Wayne in Injustice. I could be wrong though.
I'm not sure on that one.
He's done a lot of like interesting stuff, and it's just cool to see actors like kind of like, I don't know. It's just cool to see actors do a lot of cool stuff like that. So season 2 is coming out. We just finished with season 1 of Strange New Worlds. And so you're excited for season 2. It comes out, I think, on the 15th. Is that correct, Jumpman?
Of June? I'm not. I know it's coming out this year. Right now, I'm kind of focused on Picard season 3 because Picard season 3, like they finally got this show right with Picard season 3. Like the first two are not really good. Actually, in fact, story wise, you could actually skip the entire second season and go to season 3, in my opinion.
Wow. So let's talk to JD real quick. So JD, you've been hearing a lot about Star Trek. You've been listening to a lot about Star Trek. You've been reading a lot about Star Trek. Where are you? Are you going to convert?
I mean, for me, it really doesn't matter. Like I like Star Trek because of the movies. And also like when I was a kid, I watched the TV show, so I really don't care about it. But yeah, like I'm interested in watching the next generation, like the new shows are out.
Oh, that's
I wanna
good. That's
give
good,
them a
man.
try.
Yeah, man. I might give him a try as well. Jumpman, let me ask you this, Jumpman. So with Star Wars, there's kind of an expanded universe, so with the books and the games and things like that. Do you have any recommendations for people? Is there a Star Trek expanded universe, or kind of what's the deal with that?
There is a Star Trek expanded universe kind of thing like that. I mean, there's a MMORPG Star Trek game. I know that's popped. Just Star Trek Online. I think it's just simply called.
Wow.
I've heard that. I haven't really played any of those games. It's not my kind of game.
Have you read any of the books or anything like that? I'm just
I
curious.
have read a few books of the Star Trek Titan series, which is pretty good.
Wow.
That's supposed to follow Riker after the events of Star Trek Nemesis, which that's good. But as far as expanded universe goes, that's about it. I would say.
So I have to ask now, Jumpman. I mean, this question always comes up. Okay, okay. So, who do you like better, Kirk or Picard?
Oh my god. That's another hot debate among Star Trek fans too.
I would argue it's probably one of the hottest debates. I don't know.
I honestly kind of have to go with Picard.
Oh, interesting. I think that like Picard. Okay, so the thing about Picard, and this is to be fair to James T. Kirk, I think Picard has had like more episodes to develop his character. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, there's that, but it's just that Picard is also older, so I can kind of take him more seriously as a captain versus Kirk. At least in the original series, Kirk.
Picard's OG though, so yeah.
So the thing about Picard is, it's like, I mean, okay, so I think that's like most people. That's what they know Patrick Stewart from, and X-Men, obviously.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's 82 years old, still kicking, still playing the character. The character's
if he's older than that, I'm pretty sure he's like, is he? Oh, maybe not. Maybe he's not 90. I thought for a moment he was 90,
82.
but he's 82. Okay.
The thing about
I'm thinking of William Shatner.
The thing about Patrick Stewart is this, okay? He's just a good actor, and but the character of Jean-Luc Picard is, I mean, obviously, I don't know. It's like Captain Kirk is very iconic, right? But so is Picard. You know what I mean? And
they're both iconic, yeah.
But here's the problem, though. Okay, people that don't know about Star Trek know about Captain Kirk. Does that make any sense? I feel like you have to have somewhat of a knowledge of Star Trek and Next Generation to really know Jean-Luc Picard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah, maybe people have seen him like Picard or like around and stuff. So
I think the Star Wars equivalent would be I don't know what the Star Wars equivalent would be, actually. That's really tough.
Luke Skywalker?
Well, Luke Skywalker's definitely the he's like the Captain Kirk. Everybody knows Luke Skywalker.
Yeah,
right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, isn't that what you were trying to figure out?
Right, but who is the Picard of Star Wars? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yoda?
Like a character that is, I don't know. I would actually say like probably Mace Windu, actually, or someone like that. That's like
no.
Why not Mace Windu? Why not Mace Windu?
I think he's too new.
Mace Windu? Okay, look. Let me explain why I think Mace Windu is iconic. Okay, let me go in on this. Okay.
Maybe, yeah.
So first of all, before Mace Windu, Jedi's like there was only like the idea of green and blue lightsabers, right?
Uh-huh.
And with Mace Windu, obviously Samuel L. Jackson, he had talked to George Lucas saying they wanted a purple lightsaber. I think he was actually kind of joking, and then they gave him a purple lightsaber. So that's number one. Okay. Number two. Okay. Samuel L. Jackson. He's on the Jedi Council. He plays. I don't know. I think he's iconic. That's just me. I think Mace Windu is an iconic character. He's not in the first movie that much, but in episode 2, he's leading the charge. On Geonosis. And
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's like, no, by that reasoning, I would say Anakin Skywalker more, but even then, that's kind of like pushing it.
Yeah.
Because you got Patrick Stewart is the lead of Next Generation, and Kirk is the lead of the original series. So it's like if you were to make any kind of comparison, like that, it would be Anakin Skywalker to Picard, and Luke Skywalker to Kirk. If you were to make any kind of comparison like that,
I don't know. I don't know. Like,
it's so kind of weird.
Okay, but here's the problem, though. Okay, and I love Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker. I have a hard time taking Hayden Christensen seriously.
Why?
You know what I mean? It's not his fault. It's just the dialogue in the prequels. I think it's no secret.
The writing, right? The writing.
Well, just the dialogue in the prequels isn't. I think it's no secret that the prequels kind of have not the strongest dialogue in the universe. You know what I mean?
True. Yeah.
I don't know, and so that's why, like, you have a strong. I was kind of comparing Mace Windu and Picard because they're both kind of strong characters. You know what I mean? They're both, they have like I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's a false comparison, but I felt the need to defend that comparison. But anyways, going back to Star Trek.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting to me, that you have very few things that are cultural phenomena, right? Like obviously we talked about Harry Potter, Star Wars, obviously, but Star Trek is right up there, right? Like Star Trek, people are fiercely loyal to Star Trek. I would actually almost say more so than Star Wars, actually. Like,
I don't know about that.
No, okay, here's why. Okay, here's my argument. I would argue that people who are fans of Star Trek, it's like Lord of the Rings, right? Like people have like this. Okay, so for example, like Jumpman, I'm a huge fan of Star Wars, but I don't know the trivia. I don't know all the trivia of Star Wars, and I've met several Star Trek fans, and they just seem to be very fiercely loyal to the series. I could be wrong though. I don't know.
I don't know. I would say it's about equal, but
I'll put it this way: the Star Trek fans that I have met and I've talked to, people that are real Star Trek fans, they know, like, they have that deep knowledge of Star Trek and they have that deep love for it. And I'm not saying that Star Wars fans don't have a deep love for Star Wars. I'm just simply saying, in general, I think Star Wars fans, maybe they or people that are quote unquote Star Wars fans or whatever, they watch it more passively. I don't know if that makes any sense or not than Star Trek. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm making judgments on the entire Star Wars fandom. As a Star Wars fan myself, that's just my observation, though. I could be wrong,
though. I mean, that might be true only because there is so much more content, like the movie and TV show content of Star Trek compared to Star Wars.
Yes.
There's way more of that.
Yeah, and the other thing that's interesting to me is, and I could be wrong about this as well, but Star Trek actually had attractions before Star Wars, as far as like theme park attractions.
I don't recall any Star Trek themed attractions, but that'd be awesome. I'd love to see that.
Okay, so there is the Star Trek Enterprise Experience, right? Or Star Trek's The Experience, right? It's in Vegas.
Yeah, I've heard
that.
That's a Star Trek. That's a Star Trek convention.
Oh.
Which isn't exactly a thing. It's not real.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. I apologize. I'm getting my wording mixed up. Okay. I'll put it this way: like, what big Star Wars conventions are there? You know what I mean? I mean, there's obviously Star Wars Celebration, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like the Star Trek The Experience, the convention in Las Vegas, is I don't know. I just feel like you're going to get more. It's more of an attraction, in the sense that you're going to meet people that I don't know. When people go to Star Wars Celebration, I don't know. I've never been to Star Wars Celebration. That might be another episode where we go to the Star Trek experience or Star Trek convention, and then we go to a Star Wars convention and kind of do a comparison and contrast. That'd be kind of interesting too.
You're proposing we meet up in Las Vegas?
I am proposing that, yes.
We'll see. We'll see about that.
Yeah, sorry guys. I got my wording confused. Yeah, I meant conventions. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, I think this has been a pretty good podcast. Actually, we got a lot. We covered so much, and we got it very concisely put together.
Well, Star Wars Celebration is in May.
Okay, so let's go to Star Wars Celebration. We'll do it. So March, April. Yeah, then we got May. We'll go to that. We'll film the whole thing. We'll do it. We'll do an episode. Then we'll go to the Star Trek convention.
It's sold out.
Oh, well, never mind. There we go.
Yeah, the Star Trek convention is probably still doing tickets. I think that's in like August or September.
Yeah. So, Jumpman, have you ever been to a Star Trek convention?
No, I would like to.
Interesting. And here's my problem. Okay, I also want to go to like, I don't know. It's just interesting to see some of these different fandoms, you know, and just kind of like how they operate. You know what I mean? Wow. At risk of sounding silly, you know, there is also oh god, what was the thing? The thing with the thing. The thing about Star Trek is, well, this is what I like about it, okay? Kind of like what Jumpman said, you don't have to watch everything in order. Is that, you know what I mean? Like, whereas all the Star Wars shows, I would argue, I think every single one of them, maybe The Mandalorian might be a little bit of, it's a little less, you know, there's still arcs in The Mandalorian. I would say that you have to watch the first episode of The Mandalorian to really, they kind of go into each other. But like the original trilogy, or not the original trilogy, the original series of Star Trek shows, you know, you can kind of just watch them and just watch them in any order, you know what I mean? Or watch them maybe out of order. Maybe there are some arcs. So I think that is I think that's a good thing. I think that's the thing that's a kind of a breath of fresh air. I think more shows should do that. I don't know. What's your opinion on that, Jumpman?
Sure.
Yeah, because like that way, like once it's done, so right now I'm watching The Sopranos, right? And you know, anytime you get into like a show that like has, you know, all these seasons and stuff, it's like it can be a bit of an undertaking, right? And what it sounds like to me with Star Trek is it's easier to get into because you don't have to start from the very beginning. Would you agree with that statement?
Star Trek, you don't have to start from the beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, so kind of going into the final segment, this will be our last segment of the Void Playground today. On a cultural level, we've touched that. We've kind of touched on that, but Jumpman, based off of your observations, how would you say that Star Trek has affected pop culture?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's affected pop culture greatly. I mean, you ever watched The Big Bang Theory? That's a good example.
Oh yeah, wow, interesting.
Oh yeah, it's true.
I see. Here's the thing: I haven't seen The Big Bang Theory, but my dad watches it, and yeah, that's, you know, and I think like Star Trek has had, you know, kind of a really just you know, like the live long and prosperous, right? Like you know what I mean? People try to do that with their hands, you know, and make the thing. If you're at a rock concert, sometimes people will be like Spock on, and they'll like do the live long and prosperous thing. So that's kind of cool. And
wait, I got this is funny. This will be funny.
Right. This is how you do it. Right.
Oh wow.
Oh,
dude, that is hilarious. Yeah, that's right.
Oh god.
It's literally Star Trek as a rock band. See, so that is
yes, Spock on.
So
that's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, and just on a cultural level, the fact that it's still going strong, you know, and they're making, and I think they're making a fourth Pine movie, right? I could be wrong.
Theoretically, the production of that film has been off and on so much.
I think Quentin Tarantino was
Like-
attached to the project or something like
Yeah,
that.
he was at one point. He's
That is
no longer.
hilarious. That is funny.
Like, I want to see another J.J. Abrams Star Trek film happen, but at the same time, maybe we could see something entirely different too.
You know, I would be fine with it. I would be cool with a fourth Pine movie.
Yeah,
Just, you know, I mean, it wouldn't hurt. I feel like it would be a nice. Either like they end it, or they like end it with like, or they make like another trilogy of movies and they just end it. You know what I mean? So we have like a nice. I don't know, JD. What do you think?
I wouldn't mind the fourth one. I actually didn't watch Beyond. I have to.
Oh,
watch
dude,
that.
you got to watch Beyond.
Yeah,
Beyond was fun.
yeah, I gotta watch Beyond, and then we'll talk about the fourth one. But I think that like they should make a fourth one, just just for the hell of it.
Yeah. No, absolutely, man. You know, I think it. I don't know. I think that, and here's what's crazy about it. Like, I'm not a huge Star Trek fan, but like it's permeated, it's affected, it's seeped its way into my life, and obviously, my friends, obviously, Jumpman, he's a big Star Trek fan, and so it's just like I said, I think I mentioned this earlier, just that passion, that level of things like that, and then from like we talked about with the expanded universe, there's novels, there's comics, there's animated series, there's like this whole universe that they've created, and it's just crazy, man. It's just crazy. It's just so much. So, Jumpman, any closing statements?
Live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper. JD?
I can't follow up with that.
Yeah, I can't follow that. Like, I cannot follow that as well. It's the perfect ending to a really great podcast, guys. Episode 10, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Jumpman back by popular request. And then we got JD, of course. And so listen, guys, obviously if you want to support the podcast, follow the links below. thevoid.gg/shop. You can join our Discord as well in thevoid.gg. And thank you guys so much. Be sure to follow us on social media, and we hope you guys have a good rest of your day, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Follow me on Instagram and Facebook.
Oh, yeah. We got to plug Jumpman. Jumpman, what's your Instagram?
rjumpman89.
rjumpman89. You heard it here first. So, yeah, this is the Void Playground, guys, and Spock on.